When driving alongside those giant tanker trucks, have you ever heard a regular clacking sound coming from underneath and seen a metal chain dancing on the asphalt? Many people assume it's an anti-theft chain, while others think the driver forgot to secure some part. But in reality, it's a lifesaver that saves the driver and those around them from a catastrophic explosion in an instant. Welcome to Simple Why. Today we'll answer the question, why do tanker trucks drag a chain on the ground? And the truth might overturn everything you know. To understand the chain, we have to look at the terrifying physics of driving a giant metal tube filled with flammable liquid. When a massive tanker truck cruises down the highway at 60 miles per hour, it is constantly rubbing against the air. This friction creates a massive amount of static electricity. Think about what happens when you put on wool socks, shuffle your feet across a carpet, and then reach for a metal doorknob. You get a sharp, nasty shock. Now multiply that by 1,000. A speeding fuel truck is basically a giant wearing wool socks, building up a staggering 30,000 volts of static electricity. That is a massive, invisible spark just waiting to ignite tens of thousands of gallons of gasoline. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, this was a deadly problem. Early fuel transporters needed a way to get rid of that dangerous static charge before it triggered a catastrophic explosion. Their solution was simple but loud. They attached a heavy steel chain to the chassis and let it drag directly on the road, creating a constant physical path for the electricity to bleed off into the ground. It became a legendary safety feature, cemented in movies and pop culture. Even today, safety regulations from organizations like the NFPA require strict grounding protocols, demanding specialized grounding cables to be clamped onto the trucks whenever they load or unload fuel at a station. But here is where the story takes a surprising turn. If you look under a modern fuel tanker today, you will not find a chain anywhere. The truth is, modern trucks stopped dragging chains decades ago. Think about it. Dragging a steel chain across rough asphalt at highway speeds actually creates highly dangerous friction sparks. That is the exact thing they were trying to avoid in the first place. The chain is literally a ghost of the past. Today, that massive 30,000 volt charge is drained away silently by something you would never expect. It all comes down to the tires. In the second half of the 20th century, the rubber industry began heavily mixing a material called carbon black into truck tires. This material makes the rubber highly conductive. Those massive wheels are essentially invisible electrical wires. As the truck rolls, they quietly and safely suck all that static electricity out of the metal chassis and push it directly into the pavement. So those black tires act as hidden wires, safely bleeding off electricity into the highway. But what happens when a vehicle builds up thousands of volts of static electricity and it is flying 30,000 feet in the air with no ground to touch? If you have ever sat in a window seat on a commercial flight and looked out at the edge of the wing, you have probably noticed a row of tiny, thin spikes pointing backward. What exactly are those little sticks doing up there? Are they miniature antennas providing Wi-Fi so you can browse the internet? Are they high-tech sensors measuring wind speed and humidity? Or maybe they act as tiny lightning rods to catch strikes during a storm? To find the answer, we have to look back at a terrifying problem from the 1940s. During World War II, military pilots encountered a deadly phenomenon known as precipitation static. Whenever they flew their metal planes through heavy storm clouds or snow, their radios would completely die. The communication channels vanished, leaving nothing but a wall of deafening static noise in their headsets, completely cutting the planes off from the world. When a massive metal machine plows through clouds, ice crystals, and dust at 900 kilometers per hour, the friction is immense. It is exactly like rubbing a rubber balloon against your hair, but on a massive scale. The airplane's metal skin quickly builds up hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions, of volts of static electricity. With no pavement to ground it, that electrical charge has absolutely nowhere to go. But what if I told you that those little spikes on the wings are not receiving any signals at all? They are actually designed to throw things away. Scientists at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory invented these tiny devices called static wicks to solve the communication blackout. If that massive static charge had no escape route, it would eventually fire off as random sparks, completely jamming the plane's GPS, radar, and communication systems. The $100 million jet would instantly become blind and deaf in the sky. The static wick acts exactly like a pressure release valve on a boiling pressure cooker. Instead of letting the electrical pressure build until it dangerously explodes, the wicks provide a safe and continuous path. They are made with a specific electrical resistance that allows all those hundreds of thousands of volts to smoothly bleed off into the thin air behind the wing. So, the next time you are traveling, take a moment to look at the vehicles around you. Whether it is a giant fuel truck relying on hidden conductive tires to push electricity into the asphalt, or an airplane using tiny pressure valves to throw millions of volts into the open sky, you are surrounded by invisible engineering saving your life. It turns out that in an age of technology where everything is controlled by algorithms and smart sensors, the solution to one of the greatest dangers in the transportation industry remains a simple iron chain. It proves a simple philosophy. Sometimes the most fundamental laws of physics require the most original explanations. The chain dragging on the road not only protects the tanker truck, but also serves as a silent reminder of the hidden stories beneath our feet, where a seemingly superfluous, outdated detail carries the mission of saving thousands of lives every day. Thank you for joining us in unraveling the simple mysteries of life. Next time you hear that clacking sound on the road, you'll know the answer. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden everyday secrets, please hit that like button, share this video with a curious friend, and subscribe to Simple Why. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.